He launched his own company and couldn't afford a website. He did what few people would do. He built a website from scratch. Please welcome Design Studio Perth's hosting and website, I want to say guru, Chad Robinson.
Thank you very much, Tracy.
You've been described as dedicated, direct, and honest, and someone who never asks for any credit, and I know this for a fact, but always shows up. I know you always do that too. Where did these values come from?
I would say military discipline. I was in the military and the police force to school, and that discipline is instilled in you and it just stays with you forever.
Why does helping others in the web design space matter so much to you?
Because when I was learning, I had others mentoring me. I'm not the type of person who's scared to ask for help. So I actually had a mentor in the USA who's a world-renowned photographer, and he took me under his wing and helped me grow so much.
Hello and welcome to the Real Biz Life Chronicles, where we discuss all things business, branding, and life. I'm your host, Tracy Fryer, the founder of Design Studio Perth, and to celebrate the launch of season 2 of the show, Design Studio Perth is offering all our listeners a free brand discovery. So if you find yourself frustrated with haphazard branding and your messaging, use the link in the show notes below to book in a time to have a chat. Now, the Real Biz Life Chronicles is on a mission to become one of Australia's leading business podcasts. But in order to do that, we please need your help. If you do enjoy today's episode, we please ask that you like and subscribe to our channels below. My guest today didn't grow up in the tech industry. In fact, his first career spanned more than 2 decades in a corporate transport. But when he launched his own company and couldn't afford a website, he did what few people would do. He built a website from scratch. That single act of necessity turned into a passion and eventually a profession. At the age of 41, whilst most people are doubling down on what they already know, he made a bold, pivotal move into a world of web design. No shortcuts, no formal training, just relentless self-learning and a belief that knowledge is power. Today, my guest is a vital member of Design Studio Perth, which I'm extremely proud of, our go-to expert for all things hosting, server, and site performance. He's the one making sure our clients' websites stay alive, including Design Studio Perth's one, I might add. Their websites are live and secure and running at their best, quietly managing the back end so everything on the front shines. From server and DNS management to plugin integrations and best practice procedures, he's the technical backbone of our digital presence. But there's more to this person than code. He's dedicated, direct, and honest to the core. He works harder than anyone realizes, never asks for any recognition, and consistently goes above and beyond to get the job done. One of the most selfless things this person has ever done is investing in the growth of others, even when it would have been easier to do it himself and take over. When he's not deep in website architecture, you'll find him out in the remote campsites soaking up the wild. At home, he's a proud husband and stepfather with a house full of dogs, cats, birds, and even reptiles. And if there was a theme song that would play every time he entered the room, it would be This Boy by Sweatband. Please welcome Design Studio Perth's hosting and website, I want to say guru, Chad Robinson.
Thank you very much, Tracy.
Chad, walk us through what leads you at the age of 41 to start a whole new career, essentially.
Necessity. You basically have no choice. I was in a situation where I had started my own transport company, needed a website, couldn't afford for somebody to build one for me. And then thought to myself, well, how difficult can it be? We can just watch on YouTube and see how it's done. And I built this, what I thought then was the most amazing website, and in retrospect was actually horrific by today's standards. And after I had built it, one of my friends or transport clients at least saw it and said, well, can you build one for me? And I said, yeah, sure, I'll do one for you for $500, not a problem.
Yeah, wow.
And then somebody else asked me for one, and somebody else asked me for one. And it got to the point where I was really busy building these websites, and these little 3-page websites were taking me like an entire week to build because I was so slow, and I thought they were amazing with all these animations, and like I say, in retrospect, they were horrendous. And ironically, a client contacted us yesterday who's actually still got one of the original websites from 10 years ago. And I said to him, it's really time to rebuild now, because this website is like ancient. And he's still using the same website from 10 years ago. And it just grew into that. And it got to the point where I was just so busy. And then I broke my ankle and I couldn't do the actual transport side. So I sold the transport business and figured, well, I'll just focus on websites. And we got to the point where, yes, we were busy. And then 1 month I had one website for the entire month. That was it. And that was our food on the table, and we had nothing. And my wife said to me, well, look, you either got to give it up or you got to actually invest time and effort and money into this and do it properly. And I did. And I spent hours and hours learning, watching videos, doing Udemy courses, asking questions. And ironically, our next door neighbor was a website designer. And we lived in a complex. So our office walls, like we shared a wall. Yeah. So I could shout to him to the other side. So if I got stuck, I would shout and he would shout back to me what to do. And it's just a learning curve. It's a learning curve. I live with the principle of, if you wake up every day and you've learned nothing during that day, then your day is wasted. So even if you learn just one thing, one new thing or one thing, and with website design and hosting, technologies changed every single day. It is absolutely mind-blowing that at some point you actually can't even keep up with the amount of changes that are being rolled out constantly, and new technologies and stuff like that. So while most of our day is spent managing the server and designing websites and stuff like that, a lot of it is spent reading news articles and keeping up to date on latest trends and what's good and what's bad and what's recommended and what's not. So it's busy. I work an average of about 14 hours a day, and I have for the last 10 years. It's just in my nature, and it's the way I operate.
And Chad, walk us through, because I'm sure some of our listeners, they might be in a business that they're not particularly feeling fulfilled. They might be in a job that they're feeling that way as well. Because to change your career completely, it's a big move. Was there ever a time where you thought, oh my gosh, what have I done?
Every day. Still today. I think to myself, I should just go out there and become a car guard or something. There are days when you just want to pull your hair out. There are days, and it's like any job. And you know what? If you're not happy in what you're doing, then you move on. And I was talking to somebody about this last week. A friend of mine from many years ago is a qualified trauma doctor in his own practice. Okay. All he was. And he was my personal doctor. And every day he came to work in shorts and like rugged boots, and he looked like a farmer. And then the one day he just decided, you know what? I've just had enough of this. And he stopped practicing medicine and moved to the Karoo and started farming with goats. And that's what he does now. Jeez. And he just said, I'm not happy. I did this because other people wanted me to, not because I wanted to. And he just gave up. I mean, what's that? That's 10 years in learning and 5 years in practice. 15 years of his life, he just erased and became a goat farmer. And he's as happy as Larry. So, you know what, at the end of the day, you can do anything as long as you skill yourself. And back 10 years, 15 years ago, it wasn't possible. You would have to go and enroll in a college and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You can get a law degree online at night in 5 years using like online courses and stuff like that. Back of the day, you had to go and sit in a university and study. You don't need to do that now. You can actually. So you know what? Whatever makes you happy, do it. Because if you put your mind to it, you can achieve it.
And Chad, how has business changed you?
Completely. When I was in corporate, I was a feared person, absolutely feared. You would not believe it was the same person as that you have now. I had anger issues. I would be dispatched to a branch to go and sort a problem out. and the manager would know that I was on my way. And before I got there, he'd already resigned, packed his bags, and left. I've walked into businesses where I fired 40, 50 people in an hour. Literally called everybody together and just said to them politely, okay, well, off you go. Your job is now no longer, go away. I was a monster. I was an absolute monster. And I had all this creativity in me that I wasn't using. And I wasn't doing, but it's not what I wanted to do. When I left school, I wanted to become a preschool teacher. Don't ask me why. And it's something that never, ever materialized. But at the end of the day, I got into transport by accident out of necessity. It was a job that was offered to me, and I took it, and I stuck there. And I became very good at what I did, and I became a consultant to several transport companies within South Africa. But honestly speaking, I hated it with a passion.
Yeah. And so you're much happier doing what you do now?
I love it. It's not a job. It's a passion. It's honestly a passion. I cannot begin to describe that. I get up in the morning and I look forward to what I'm going to do for the day. Okay. I thrive in the fact that when somebody asks for something on Facebook, so many people recommend me. Okay. I relish looking at a website for a client that we built 8 years ago with 4 products on it. And I ran stats on her report, on her thing yesterday, just as a matter of interest. And she's turning over 2.5 million rand a month off this tiny little website that I built her. And we're busy rebuilding the site now as we speak. Stuff like that is just, it just makes me want to go further. It wants to make me do more. And I've always had this philosophy within the website design specifically, is I don't build websites. I build relationships. Because if you look at our Google reviews, clients are happy with me. Okay. And the reason they're happy with me is because they see that we give them what they promise. It's growing. Design Studio Perth, it's growing with distinction. It's growth. We want to see clients grow. There is no point in having a website if it's not going to do anything for you. If it's just going to sit there like a little brochure in your desk and do nothing. Okay. And often we'll go through a client brief and we'll look at it and say to the client, you know what you've asked for is just not going to work for you. And the client will be like, yes, but that's what I want. But client, this is not going to work for you. It's not going to grow your business. It's not going to do anything for you. And yes, we get the client, we get the website. And in a year's time, we lose the client and they shut down their business because it didn't work for them. But if they had listened to us through our expertise, our collective expertise within Design Studio Perth, and they listen to what we're telling them, it's a minefield. And there is no way they can fail if they actually just open their minds to what we have to offer to them, and let us show them the growth.
And that's why I really appreciate having you on the team, Chad, because there's been times I've thought something's possible and, bring it to you and the team, and then you guys will obviously work together and say, well, hey, we can't do this, but we can do something else as well, which is always great. Because again, the client or the brand strategist might have an idea, but then when it comes to the reality of actually implementing it, it's quite different.
Yeah, definitely. It's crazy.
And Chad, you've been described as dedicated, direct, and honest, and someone who never asks for any credit, and I know this for a fact, but always shows up. I know you always do that too. Where did these values come from?
I would say military discipline. I was in the military and the police force after school, and that discipline is instilled in you and it just stays with you forever. I've always had that mentality. sometimes I'm a little bit too direct, and I call a spade a spade. You know what? If you want something sugar coated, then go and buy yourself an M&M, because I'm not here to sugarcoat it. Unfortunately, I will tell you directly that I think you're being stupid now, and this, and sometimes people take that the wrong way. But I'm not here to be nice. I'm here to get a job done and do it properly. And as a result, some people say to me, you know what, you're a bit rude. Well, yeah, I probably am a bit rude sometimes. Even my own family say to me, you're a bit rude sometimes. Like, you can't say that to a client, or you can't say that to somebody. I'm like, I don't have the time to dance around somebody. And as far as honesty goes, in all honesty, I've got the memory of a goldfish. Okay. Right. And I cannot lie, because I cannot remember the lie that I originally told to actually continue the lie. So it's a lot easier just to be honest. It's easier just to say, you know what, this is the situation I messed up. Because if I lie to you about how I messed up, and in a month's time you ask me, I can't remember what I originally told you. Anyway, so yeah, I've got a desk full of sticky notes and notebooks, and I've got electronic notes and stuff like that for reminders, and I've got a really bad memory. So you know what, it doesn't help to try and lie. You'll always get caught out. You'll always get caught in your own web of lies. So if you've messed up, say it. If you've misunderstood something and you've done something wrong, take accountability for your mistake, correct it, and move on. It's a lie is thing, and that's where the honesty comes from. It's purely a memory thing. It's not that I don't want to be dishonest. It's just I can't remember when I was dishonest. I don't know how to follow through with it.
I think it'd be so tiring. Like, you have to try and keep track of, and that's the thing. I think most lies, they just can't keep track of who they've said, who they've said what to, and eventually it's just so exhausting, because you just lose track. So I'm of the same mentality. Like, rather just be honest, and there's nothing, no nonsense that you have to remember.
Absolutely.
Chad, so you of course keep all the websites at Design Studio Perth running, but behind the scenes, you're also known for the kind of person who steps back, your mentor, and that's how we actually got to meet through one of our previous web designers. You were mentoring her, and she left and you stayed, which was great. Why does helping others in the web design space matter so much to you?
Because when I was learning, I had others mentoring me. Also, and I found this through my life. I'm not the type of person who's scared to ask for help or ask for advice. Okay. And when I started photography, I did photography from school days back in the day when there was no digital cameras, and migrated over to digital over the years. And I actually had a mentor in the USA who's a world-renowned photographer, and he took me under his wing and helped me with so much, and helped me grow so much in terms of that. And in terms of my website design, I wouldn't be where I was if it wasn't for others. Ironically, I had a contact that lived somewhere out. I actually can't remember where, somewhere in Australia, in some little town. Well, I wouldn't even call it a town. Like you said, there was just a pub and a petrol station somewhere in the middle of nowhere in Australia. And I remember sending him a WhatsApp, and it was like 2:00 in the morning with him. And I was stuck with a line of code, and I sent him this WhatsApp, and he replied immediately with, do this quickly, do that quickly. I said to him, man, you are absolutely amazing. How did you know this? He says, it comes naturally. I'm sitting in a pub. It's 2:00 in the morning and I'm drunk out of my mind. He says, and I can still do it like that. People have always helped me. And as a result, I have others that will come to me. And I've had the case in point you're referring to, the lady was building her own website and she got stuck, and she asked me to help her. And then she was quite a good graphic designer. So she then decided she wanted to build a website for somebody else. And I then mentored her through that. And then she eventually learned how to do it and started her own web design business through what I taught her over a long period of time. And I've got 2 or 3 other web designers that I do that with at the moment as well, where if they get stuck, they can come to me and they can ask me the how, the what, and the where. And you know what? There's always enough business out there for everybody, and I firmly believe what you put out comes back to you. So I'll always need help with something in some way or form. And there's other people out there that are mentoring me and helping me when I get stuck with certain things. And yeah, if we all just keep paying it forward, or keep the ball rolling, instead of like being stuck in your own little world, then yes, it's, I have another web designer that not mentors me, but that asks me for help with respect of code. And yet when they have overflow, they just pass websites over to us to build for them. So yeah, it's all about just being nice, really. If everybody could just be more nice, then it'll be a better place. So yeah, that's how it goes. And I'm quite happy to mentor and help anybody that wants to learn or needs to learn anything like that.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of mentorship, and I don't think I would quite be where I am today if it wasn't for those people that have, helped me grow. Sometimes you're so stuck in I always say if you're in the jar, you can't see the label. And it always takes that external person to say, hey, like your label is actually saying this, like get out the jar. So it's definitely
exactly a very good analogy. Yeah.
Yeah. I think everyone needs a mentor in some way. Chad, what are some of the most popular things where you see business owners get it wrong with their websites?
There's 3 ways of building a website. Okay. The first way is the client's way, because they have a preconceived idea and this is what they want. They've seen something somewhere else, or they've got this thing in their head that this is what they want. The second way is the way the website designer builds it. We tend to get ourselves into a rut as website designers, and we tend to build the same thing over and over again. It just becomes like a kind of habit. Okay. And the third way is Google's way. And when all 3 of those meet, that's when you have the perfect website. And you'll find a lot of failures with clients are where they don't listen. Okay. They don't want to take advice. They think they know better. And there's a psychology behind colors. And I'll use an example of a legal website. We built a legal website with cartoon characters on it. And I said to the guy, how much trust do you think you're going to build with your clients with cartoon characters on a law firm website? Okay. No, but that's what he wants. It's like, really? That's really what you want? Then we'll have clients that will come to us and they'll want like 100 animations and 17 different fonts and all this kind of stuff. And you say to them, guys, that's not the right way to do things. No. Or as you guys, as we've just recently experienced in DSP, you'll write content for a client and then they'll go and change the content themselves and say, okay, no, this is how I want it. It's like, why did you ask us to write the content if you want to go and rewrite it? And you have the same concept with websites where clients have this, like, they have blinkers on and they just won't listen. And with websites like that, what happens is you tend to just build it because you're building it, and you lose that passion when it comes to building it because you're just doing what the client's telling you to do at the end of the day, and you don't really feel anything about it. Okay. And you get those clients that say to you, okay, this is what I want to achieve. And then you build for them and they'll like ask for something extra and you'll just put it in because you're like so proud of this website because you've created it and stuff like that. So that I find is the biggest downfall. And then most importantly, what clients don't realize, and I have this with 99% of clients, is they're designing a website for themselves. And I always say to them, it's not your website. It's for your clients. It's for your visitors. You don't build a website that you like. You build a website that fits with your brand tone, that fits with everything about your business in terms of your branding and all that type of stuff, and it must work. It's not about whether you like it. You don't need to like your own website.
Yeah.
It's not about whether you like it. It's about whether it works. And that's an important thing. I built my own website and I loved it. And I had no hits on my website. It was dead.
Right.
And somebody came to me and they redesigned my website on paper. So it wasn't really rebuilt. And they said to me, do this. And I was like horrified because they were taking out like all my animations and this. So I said, yes, whatever. And I built it, rolling my eyes. And within a month, we were hitting 2,000 to 3,000 hits a month.
Wow.
Just by rebuilding the website because we didn't build it for us. we built it for somebody else, the client.
Yeah.
And that is a huge, huge, huge thing. And people just, clients can be difficult sometimes. And you need to educate and explain this to them so that they understand that we're not building a website to make money out of them. We're building a website to build their business, and we have their best interests in mind.
Yeah.
So when they come to you and they say to you, okay, I want a website that sells furniture and also sells car parts on the same website, you can't explain to them that this is not a good idea and it shouldn't be done, they just don't listen. So.
No, and you've highlighted something really important, Chad, in that a brand essentially is built around your ideal client, or some businesses might have 2 or 3 ideal clients, but I find a lot of agencies that go straight to the website, or even, the business owner not knowing any better, straight to the website, this is what I want. But then what happens is there's a gap in that brand. They haven't figured out their ideal client, their core messages to attract more of those clients into their business. And so that investment of time, energy, and money in their website goes down the drain because there's those core foundations that are missing in their brand.
Correct. And then they wonder why it fails, or they try and do digital marketing or SEO, and the SEO agency or the marketing agency comes to them and says to them, your website's a mess. We actually can't work with this. And then they come back to us and say to us, well, they said my website's a mess. It's like, yes, we know. Would you like me to refer you to the 3,500 emails that we had about this conversation, where you were adamant as to what you wanted? Because the brand, the font used in your brand is totally different to the font on your website, because you wanted some curly, swirly little fancy font that's incredibly difficult to read on your website, even though we told you, no, this is a bad idea.
Yeah. I think something else important that you've highlighted is trust in the process. So trusting that branding process. And I know it's hard because a lot of people have been burned, and it can get costly. But just trusting that process that, when you've engaged a professional to guide you in such a way. So trust that process that they are going to do right by you. Obviously, if they don't, have that conversation with them. But that they're guiding you and, steering you in different directions from what you might have had first in mind for a reason. So I'd love to talk website maintenance. Now, the analogy I always give our clients or prospects is that a website is like a house, right? So we've got a house as our address. It has the mortgage or rent that we pay. And then we've got that website that sits on that block of land, right? So a website has got the domain, which is like our address. We've got the mortgage, which is our hosting. And then we've got the website that sits in that block of land, shall we say, in the World Wide Web. And I always say a website, like a house, if it's not maintained, it gets dirty and eventually it collapses. So please walk us through, Chad, why should all business owners have some sort of maintenance plan in place?
The analogy I use with a lot of clients is cars. Okay.
Yeah.
So you have a car and your car needs to be serviced. Okay. It needs the oil changed. It needs the brakes changed. Can you do it yourself? I'm pretty sure you could if you watched enough YouTube tutorials.
Yeah.
Should you do it yourself? Definitely not. Okay. If you hit the brakes on your car and they don't work, you're probably going to die. Okay. Yeah. And you've saved yourself how much by trying to do your brakes yourself rather than taking it to a qualified mechanic? And that's the analogy that I use with the clients with regards to websites. If you don't maintain them, they get slower and slower and slower. They also, if you don't maintain them, there are critical security updates that happen regularly and constantly on a website. Okay. And if you do not apply those updates, you just make your website vulnerable and open to hacking. Okay. So a website consists of, let's start at the beginning, would be your domain, which obviously doesn't need maintenance. It's just your address. Okay. And then you've got your hosting. So your hosting needs maintenance as well. Within your hosting, there are various programs that run in the background like PHP. And if you don't update the PHP regularly, then that makes your website vulnerable. Then we go one step further, is that the actual website itself, in our cases with Design Studio Perth, 99% of them are built on WordPress. Now, WordPress requires a certain version of PHP. So if you don't update your PHP, you can't update your WordPress. Yeah. If you don't update your WordPress, all the vulnerabilities and issues that are reported during a period of a week or a month, or if it's a serious one, like in a day, WordPress will fix and then issue an update that we need to run the update on the site. Within WordPress are several plugins and themes. Each one of those are dependent on each other and are dependent on PHP and dependent on WordPress. So if you just hit a button and say, okay, let's update all my themes, let's update all my plugins, okay, it might work. In all likelihood, you're probably going to crash your site, okay? Because if there's a problem and one of the dependencies are not working properly, that needs to be gone in and you need to go and fix it. So maintenance on a website could take me anything from 5 minutes on a little website or 5 hours if I click the update button and something breaks because I need to go back and fix it. And then included in that is backups. Okay, so before we do anything, before we hit any button on a website, we make a complete backup of it. Okay, and we do the update, and then if it breaks, we can roll it back immediately so that there's no downtime for the client. Take our copy, put it onto a staging server, go and re-emulate that backup, and update and see what broke, why it broke, how it broke, fix that, re-implement it. So it's not a quick and easy process, and it should never be done as an automated process because you just never know what happens. I did a Design Studio Perth update this morning as part of our maintenance, and it was on your website, on the Trace Bespoke. And I did the update, and once I've done the update, I go out into incognito so I can't view the cache, and the whole header had gone like totally out of whack. So quickly fixed that, cleared the cache. It's normal. You do an update and it changes files within your system. So if you're just running an update and you're not even aware of what's happening afterwards, you look at the website and, oh, it looks fine. Meantime, if a client goes and looks at it, it's like all higgledy-piggledy and nobody understands why. And then your client comes to you and says to you, oh, your website's broken. And you're like, oh, dear, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
Whereas we do that in the background. And if there's, we generally do it weekly. And if there's a critical update that's come out, so let's say Elementor has a vulnerability in it, we'll get an email from various sources saying there's a vulnerability, and we can push a vulnerability update like immediately to the sites to make sure that they cleared and repaired immediately so that that vulnerability is now patched in effect, and then it doesn't happen. Maintenance is so important, so important. To give you an idea, we're on PHP 8.3 at the moment and WordPress 6.8 at the moment. I had a client come to us yesterday. He's still on PHP 5.4 and asked us to update something on his website. And we just looked at it and said to him, no, we can't. We cannot even touch your website. Your website is like a house of cards at the moment. If I do anything, it's just going to collapse. It's going to completely collapse. So, and it gets to that point where it just cannot be fixed. If you don't maintain it, it just cannot be fixed. You'll end up just destroying the entire website because all these things are interdependent on each other. And also what happens sometimes is plugins get abandoned. So you might be using a plugin to connect to Facebook, for example. And the developer decides, okay, you know what, not enough people have bought this plugin from me, so I'm just going to abandon it. I'm not going to continue using it. And it then becomes outdated to the point where it's no longer compatible with others. So then you'll update your website, and that plugin will cause the website to crash. So we would then need to remove that plugin, find an alternative, and then reinstall an alternative to get that functionality working again, which is all good and well. But if you've waited too long, you can't find those compatibilities. The cohesion is gone, and so now it's just not going to work anymore. That they just don't play nicely together anymore, and it just can't be done. And it does get to the point where your website is destroyed. The only way to fix it is to rebuild it completely from scratch, because you can do version updates like 2 or 3 versions behind, but not like 10, 15 versions behind. It's impossible.
Yeah. And Chad, I come across some business owners who feel they don't need a website. What would your advice be to them?
Back in the day, if you didn't have a sign outside your business, okay, nobody knew you existed. And I say a website is like your sign, okay? Because in World Wide Web is somebody walking down the street and they see you, and through different mechanisms and stuff like that. And a business without a sign is a sign of no business.
Yeah.
If you don't, in today's day and age, if you do not have a digital footprint, you technically do not exist. It's as simple as that. It is, you don't exist. People will never find out about you. You can put as many adverts you want in print media. You can hand out flyers at robots.
Yeah.
But if you do not have a digital footprint and a digital reputation, most importantly, you do not exist. Okay. And a lot about the digital footprint is digital reputation. Okay.
Yeah.
How well are you known online? How well, and there's programs out there now, and there's stuff that can actually go and look at a digital persona, like Design Studio Perth, for example, and it checks it against a whole bunch of databases, things like Trustpilot and all kinds of stuff like that, and it gives you a rating. It actually tells you what the rating is of this, and you get like it's your digital trust index, basically.
Yes.
And how do you have a trust index if you don't exist?
No, good point.
Then you don't exist. It's like when you're born, you get a birth certificate. That's the record that you exist. The fact that you don't have a birth certificate, you're still there. You haven't disappeared, but nobody knows about you. You are nothing. You are a non-persona, and that's the same as applies to a website. Remember, your website is not just a brochure. It's your brand. It's your everything. So a company without a website is dead in the water, completely dead in the water.
For our Australian listeners, a robot is a traffic light, by the way.
Yes.
Chad, there's a big movement towards people, DIYing their own websites with ChatGPT. Do you think it's helpful or dangerous when people sort of, go into those waters? And I know you touched a bit on the website maintenance side of things, and like if you had a car, would you rather take it to a professional? What's your thoughts on that?
Look, there are programs out there that are designed to build websites for, and I put this in inverted commas, for the dumb. Okay, where it's a drag and drop builder, things like Wix. They've been around for years. And now GoDaddy have got it as well. And you can use AI to generate a website and build it. Yeah, it's all there. Okay. The problem is that building a website is not about a layout of pretty pictures lined up with words. Okay. That's just a part of it. There is a lot more that is involved in building a website in terms of the structure, the way it's laid out. And like writing content, AI can go and generate content, and if you go and look back at it, that content is invariably tied to something else. So, because remember, AI learns from something else. It doesn't think for itself. It learns from something else. So when you're creating an image in AI, you're not creating an image. What AI is doing is it's actually stealing that image from somewhere else and just changing it. Okay. When you create content in AI, it's stealing that content from somewhere else and just changing it. Okay. It has no personality. And when you build a website with AI, which you can, you're getting exactly that. If you're building a website by yourself, and again, it's one of those old things. You can go onto YouTube, you can watch tutorials, you can build a website in WordPress. I've seen clients do it. Okay. And some of the websites I've seen are horrific.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like my first website, it was horrific. I thought it was absolutely the bomb.com.
Yeah.
Okay. And I see this with junior website designers who will build a website and they'll suddenly discover animation, and everything's animated because they've now suddenly learned how to animate something, and they think it's awesome. Okay. And we're not conceited enough to believe that what we do is right. Okay. In that I'll build a page and I'll ask somebody else for their opinion, usually my wife. What do you think of this? And she'll say to me, were you smoking something on that day? Because this really looks stupid. And sometimes she'll tear my work apart, but it's looking at it from a different perspective. Now, when you're building your own website, you're building it in a tunnel vision. You're dragging and dropping pictures and words and hoping that everything will be cohesive, and not realizing that there's a million other things behind it, okay, that actually require everything to work together properly to work. And building a website like on Wix, all you're doing is you're creating an online brochure. You're not creating an online presence. So you know what? You might as well just upload a PDF to YouTube and call that your website if you really want to, because at the end of the day, that's what it is. It's not going to grow your business in any way.
No.
It's not going to give you a real presence. And my beauty is when people will not invest in their business, okay, yet with a decent website, yet they'll go and rent an office with a fancy desk and a $5,000 chair to sit in, and the best iPhone and the best Mac, and yet they've got a website that's designed in Wix on a free plan. When you go into the website, it says on the bottom, they designed by Wix. It's like, really, people? Really?
Yeah,
Do you really want people to think about your business like that you're not prepared to invest any money in your business whatsoever? So, yeah.
And I think also, again, you've highlighted a good point that it is an investment. And when it's done properly, you will naturally get that return on investment, because it's been done properly. So it's, I know when I first started, not even Design Studio Perth, this was a while ago. Like when I first tried to do my own thing, I think I attempted, because I never did the web design elective at TAFE, and I tried to use Squarespace. Oh, my soul. It was so frustrating. Like it was terrible.
Horrible. It's horrible.
It was awful. So yeah, that was the end of that idea. But Chad, the other thing I was wondering, in terms of, staying on top of the tech game, as you mentioned, it changes so much. What's one outdated system or mindset that's still holding businesses back in 2025?
I would say e-commerce. A lot of clients still believe that they don't need to sell their product online. They'll have a brochure telling people about their product, but they won't actually sell it online.
Right.
And that all changed in COVID. Okay. And then you'll get clients that will have an online store, but they'll have a button that says request a quote, where they don't actually sell the product online. Okay. It doesn't work. Or they'll have an e-commerce store where when you check out, it asks you to do an EFT and email a proof of payment, because they want to save the 2% or 3% fee that the payment gateway is going to charge them. That mentality, e-commerce mentality as a whole, people are still stuck in that rut. And those companies are going to die. They're going to die a slow and painful death, because it's pre-COVID, that was all fine. Okay. Post-COVID, people have realized, you know what, you can buy this stuff online. And you know what, I'll pay 10% more for something if I don't have to get my butt out of my chair. Literally, I'll pay more for it, because I couldn't be bothered to actually go to the shop. That our local mall is not even 2 kilometers away. Okay. And yet we needed lasagna yesterday. So we just ordered it online and had lasagna delivered to our house, because we couldn't be bothered to get in the car and go and drive 2 kilometers and find parking. And people have become like that, and they'll go onto your website and look at that. And then the other thing that's very, very important, that's become a big thing, and it ties back in with you building your own website and doing it properly, is speed, website speed. Since COVID, again, people have become impatient. They want gratification. They want it now, this second. If I click on a button, the website must load. Okay. If I must click on a button and go make a cup of coffee while your website is loading, sorry for you, you've lost my business. It's gone.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
They'll wait for it, and if that white page doesn't appear within 2 or 3 seconds, and 2 or 3 seconds is a long time. Okay.
It is. Yeah.
They are not interested. Okay. It's got down to the point where your website has to load in under a second. And in all honesty, I think I've only seen like maybe 4 websites in my entire life that actually does that. And it can be done, but it's incredibly expensive to actually get it to do it. And I don't believe it has that much impact on it. But there was an exercise that was done by, I think, Amazon, where they increased their speed of their website by 0.2 milliseconds. I mean, you can't blink that fast.
No.
And it increased their sales by some ridiculous percentage. Just that.
Oh, interesting. Wow.
It is mind-blowing. Actually, I can't remember the exact numbers and stuff, but it was mind-blowing. But that applies to guys like Amazon who spend hundreds of thousands of rands in hosting and stuff like that. But it is those two things, the e-commerce and badly built websites that load really slowly, are what is crippling people in terms of technology.
Yeah, because I mean, one of the things I always say to clients as well is that you want your website to automate some of those processes. I guess where the variants come in is that if it's like any different currencies on the website, or if there's shipping of items that kind of way different, if something is, if they've got a various product range and they weigh different things, can that kind of be the issue why they might not be going down that direct sort of path?
No, it's just because they're lazy.
Oh.
It really is because they're lazy. 5 years ago or 6 years ago, it was almost impossible to have a website with, like, if you sold, let's say, a packet of cigarettes and a 10-liter drum of oil on your website. The shipping to do that would be so complex. Now the technology is already being built into it, because remember, everybody's doing it already. So somebody else has already built that plugin for us, or we can customize a plugin to do that for us. So there is no reason why people shouldn't do it. They just don't, because they're trying to save a buck here, save a penny there, or they're just too lazy to actually process the thing. I buy coffee, the most awesome coffee, from a South African supplier, and I got to email them, and they email me back an invoice. Then I make a payment and I EFT them. And their coffee is nowhere to be found, not in any retail store or anywhere, but it is. I found it by accident in a tea room on the side of a road in the middle of nowhere, and I've since bought their coffee. And I've said to them, build an e-commerce store. No, we don't want to.
Don't want to. Wow.
I said, you can sell everywhere. I found your coffee by accident, completely by accident.
And it's good coffee?
And if I'd never done that, I wouldn't. It's the best ever. It's Arabica, I can't even describe it to you. It's crazy stuff. But just the concept, and they just like, no, we don't want it. They just send me an invoice, I pay them, then they ship it out with a courier. So yeah.
It's interesting. It's almost like some business owners will keep themselves small in some ways. I do think it's like a fear out of trying new things.
Yeah. People have this, they don't have the knowledge, okay, as to what it can actually do for their website and how, for their business, and how it can grow their business if they have these technologies in place. And some of them have these like mindsets, and they just want to stick to this mindset. And it's, you can't do anything with them, but eventually they'll be gone. They just won't exist anymore, because the world has become digital. I mean, here we are doing this the way we are now. 10 years ago, how would you have done this? Oh, probably over Skype. Heaven forbid.
Probably.
But you see what happened is Skype did not change with the times. Okay, it was the most popular program out there. There was nothing more popular than it out there. And it was designed by a Chinese guy that was working in America, a student who wanted to communicate with his family. And he built this little app specifically for that purpose, which was eventually sold to Microsoft. Just a simple idea, okay? But because it did not change with the times, it eventually became totally useless to everybody. And shut it down, completely shut it down. And it's gone forever. And all of us have used Skype at one point of our lives.
I remember using Skype, and it's kind of strange because you kind of realize it's not so popular anymore, but it's most bizarre. And then naturally Zoom just becomes the preference, or Teams, or Google Meets, or whatever the case may be. Chad, I'd love to touch on for our listeners, what are some ways a website can help your business grow?
First of all, like I said, digital presence and your online reputation. Okay. But more importantly than that, it frees up your time as a business owner to focus on your business. Because if you sit down and look at how many emails you spend answering questions, okay, and I'll use a tech website as an example, okay, where there's an FAQ on it or a knowledge base on it that the client can go and search for a solution. Like, how do I do this or how do I do that? Okay, in terms of, or what would this cost me or what would that cost me if I wanted to do this or that? All that information is already there, okay, and it also is a very important tool in cross-selling. So I'll approach Design Studio Perth and I'll say to Design Studio Perth, I want a logo because I searched online or somebody said to me that Design Studio Perth can design me a pretty cool logo. So I'm lazy, like most people, and nobody wants to pick up the phone and phone you because invariably they're not going to get hold of you because you're busy. You're busy running your business, okay? And if you miss that call, you've lost the business forever, okay? They'll go somewhere else. But if you're on the internet and they go and search for you, they'll find you. And he goes and reads about the logo. Okay, cool. So now he's got all the information about the logo. Lo and behold, he didn't know that you're actually able to do everything else for him as well, that he was going to probably have to look for somewhere else anyway. So suddenly your website is just cross-sold an entire range of services to that client that you probably wouldn't have done on a phone call anyway. So let's say Joe did phone you and you did answer and you said, and the question would have been, hi, I need a logo designed. And you would have said to him, no problem. Can you pop me your email address and I'll give you a quick breakdown of what we do? Or he would have waffled on about what he does and you'll say to him, no problem. I'll send you a quote on our logo. Okay. You didn't think of cross-selling to that client. Why? Because you're busy. You're busy running your business. He's waffling on for 20 minutes. You don't have time for this. You've got other things doing. You've got a meeting coming up. You've got this podcast with this cool web designer in South Africa. You don't have time for this. Okay. Whereas your website does have time for it. Okay. And more importantly, he comes up with this brain fart at 1 o'clock in the morning, and we don't use magazines on the loo anymore. Nobody does. You use your cell phone. And he's now scrolling through, finds your DSP and searches logo design Australia. DSP. They couldn't phone you at 1 o'clock in the morning and ask you that question. So there's no short answer. But if you don't have a website, your business ain't going to grow. Actually, you won't have a business. It's simple. You see the concept behind having a website.
Yes. And even in terms of if you want to grow your database and having like a loadable lead magnet and just constantly adding value. And, and another big one I always say to clients is you need to think about that journey that the person on the other side of the screen is taking. Like, what is it that we would like them to do, or where do we want them to go? Because again, if it's just this catalog site that's sitting there, well, people will go off on their own tangent and not really be guided. So just really thinking about, if someone goes my homepage, where am I sending them? Or do I want them to download my lead magnet or go to my, my services page or whatever the case may be?
It has a myriad of different things where people could book appointments, send you messages, sign up for newsletters. There's so much automation built within the site. And now recently, and you guys are onboarding it now, there's a product called Go High Level. So what Go High Level did was, Go High Level was necessitated by frustration, okay? Because all these little programs out there offered something, but not everything. So what they did is they went and they took the pain points of every single program out there that was used for these different things, okay, and consolidated it all into one. Okay, it's become a game changer in the industry, and this thing now integrates with your website and does all kinds of things and jumps through hoops for you. But without a website, you can't make use of that kind of technology. So it's of no benefit to you at all. And yes, it's save time, automations, information on demand, all that type of stuff is right there at your fingertips.
And also your data as well. Like if you're running and you could be doing Google ads or Facebook ads or whatever the case may be. It really gives the data to where traffic's coming from. I think it gives your site visits as well. Chad, correct me if I'm wrong.
It gives you everything. You can set up your Google tracking right down to the point that if somebody clicks on a button, you can know which page they came from to click on that button. We've just recently been playing with some new software, which is scary stuff.
Yeah.
And it records the user's interaction on your website. Okay.
Wow.
So you can go and watch a replay of a visit on your website, and you can actually see what
Yeah.
they clicked on. So
Right.
how they got there, then they clicked on your home. How far did they scroll down on your page? What buttons did they click on? And you can watch their entire visit, like a recorded visit, as if you were
Oh,
sitting at
wow.
their desk in through their eyes. You can actually watch it to be able to analyze your thing. Now we've got a client who's making no sales on his website. He's making no sales because he didn't listen to what we said. And we put
Sure.
this thing on his website to go and look at it.
Mm.
And his buy button is right at the bottom of the page
Yeah.
against our recommendations. And the guys are scrolling, they're visiting his page, they're scrolling one scroll, and then they're
Oh,
leaving.
and then miss it.
They're not
Oh,
even getting to the buy
dear.
button.
Oh,
And we can
dear.
see it we can actually see it. So that's the level of deepness that you
Oh,
can actually go if you've got the time to sit and watch replays of people visiting your site, which is all great if you've got like 5 or 6 visits. But like with Design
yeah.
Studio Perth, I think I had a look this morning, you're sitting about 2,500 visits. So it'd be a lot of
Hopefully,
replays to sit and go through to determine when.
hopefully everyone was clothed if you can see them on the other side. Just joking.
Mm.
Chad, if someone is thinking of building their first website or they're rebranding and they're going to, they're going to rebuild their website, what is something they absolutely have to get right from the get-go?
Your brand, your identity. Okay. That sets the tone for everything. Okay. And that's where Design Studio Perth are the leaders in it. Okay. Because it's not Tracy that's going to sit down and say, yeah, do this. Okay.
Yeah.
It's 6 or 7 people that are all interconnected in one way or form with their own, not skill set, but speciality in what they actually do. Okay. So one person will say, right, this is how we're going to do your brand tone of voice. Then another person will take that brand tone of voice and say, right, based on that, this is how we suggest we do your logo. Okay. And each one of those people are specialists in what they do. Okay. In terms of every single aspect of it. So you can go to a GP and you can say to the GP, oh, my neck hurts. And your GP says, well, don't turn your neck that way and it won't hurt. Problem solved. Okay. You can go to the GP and say to them, okay, I don't feel well. And they'll say, let's send you for a blood test. That's a pathologist. They're a specialist. They'll then tell the GP something. The GP will then consult it, give you a script. The pharmacist is a specialist. Each one is a specialist. Okay. You don't go into a supermarket and say to the cashier, my neck hurts. And she says, oh, well, here's a Panado. That should help. Okay. And that's where Design Studio Perth stands out in that they're a one-stop shop. They can do everything. Okay. But it's not a bunch of fly-by-night mechanics who are going to be working on your car. Okay. It's a specialist in every single field. So if you're starting off and you start off with a proper brand tone, proper branding, brand is your personality. Just like you have a personality, so does your business. Okay. And that personality needs to be created. And you can't have a different personality for different scenarios. A personality is a personality. It can be the same everywhere. So if people understand what you are on Facebook, then it must be the same on your website. It must be the same on LinkedIn. It's your personality. It's not your personal, but your brand's personality. And that's where you got to start. Then good content creation, good graphic design, a solid website build, and then reliable hosting. If you go through those steps and you combine all of those together, which Design Studio Perth can do for you, you're rock solid. You've literally built a castle on an island in the middle of nowhere that is unstoppable because everything about it just works because it's done together. It's not outsourced. It's not given to some Joe blog that thinks he knows what he's doing and whatever. These are people that have been handpicked by a very OCD critical woman that will not settle for anything less than the best, which is you.
Chad.
And if you put your toe out of line, you're going to get a slap on the back of the head because you run a tight ship, and it's going to grow. That is the recipe for growth for a client.
Yes, I actually I love that description that you gave of me.
Very
But
true.
hey, we
Like I
can't
said,
have
like I said,
yeah.
sometimes I'm a little bit too blunt, but it is what it is.
I we can't have a tagline that says grow with distinction and then people are putting more than their toes out of line, right? So there's method in my madness.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Oh, I love that. Thanks, Chad. I'm going to ask Gospel to make that a short. Anyway, Chad, if there was one piece of advice you could give a business owner who's potentially in that first 5 years of business, what would it be?
Do it properly from the beginning. Don't
Mm,
take shortcuts. Okay. Don't try and save a buck. Okay. If you can't afford to do something now, don't do it. Wait until
yeah.
you've got the money and do it. Okay. Nothing can do you more harm than doing it badly. It'll kill your business.
Mm,
Okay. If you can't afford to have a logo professionally designed, please do not go and run some arbitrary prompt through Canva and ask it to build your website or a logo,
please
because
don't.
that is what people are going to remember. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, do it properly, spend the money, invest in your business, but do it properly from the start. Don't take shortcuts. It will not only
Mm.
cost you more in the long run, but it could cost you your business.
Yeah, great advice, Chad. Chad, I do have one more question I want to ask. So you once is it rap jumped off a 20-story building despite a fear of heights?
I am
What does this
terribly
say
scared of
about
heights
you? How come you did that
because
though?
I'm an idiot. I am terrified of heights. Okay, so what happened was we went on a team building
Right.
with a company I was working with in the Drakensberg Mountains, and there was a cliff face of about 5 or 6 meters high. Now that
Yeah.
even a ladder is too high for me. So we decided. Now, of course, I don't want to chicken out because everybody's doing it. So I got to know how to do it.
Yeah.
So I closed my eyes and
Have
I
to
did
stay
it.
face.
But I became quite good friends with the guys that were doing the team building that do the rap jumping. Now, for those who don't
Mm,
know, rap jumping is kind of like abseiling, but you go forward and not backwards. Okay, so
right.
it's, if you can imagine these guys jumping out of helicopters with a rope where they just like slide down the rope, well, that's kind of like rap
Oh,
jumping. So these
right.
guys invite me to this building in the center of Durban where I live and say to me, oh, yeah, join us for pizza and a drink. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, 2 or 3 drinks and a couple of Red Bulls and vodka later.
We
This was back in the day when I was still drinking, by the way, which I don't anymore.
right.
I was like all this Dutch courage, and we went up to
Yes.
the top of this building. And I looked over and I said to him, no ways. And he said to me, just close your eyes, lean over. I've got you by the security rope.
Mm.
And once you're over, you'll be fine. And I did that, and I opened my eyes, and I said to him, pull me back. He says to me, I can't. There's only one way down, and that's down now, and that's
Oh.
go down. Um, so you can control the speed you go down by the way you hold your hand. So I went down like a girl, like really, really slowly. Um, and the guy at the bottom, if he shakes the rope or pulls the rope taut,
Yeah.
it overrides your hand, so he can control you. So if he pulls the
Right.
rope taut, you free fall. So anyway, he pulled the rope taut, and I free fell. I screamed like a girl, 20 stories down, with my
We.
eyes closed, and carried on screaming for about a minute afterwards, until somebody said to me, open your eyes. And I was about 30 centimeters off the ground, hanging
Oh,
horizontally. 20, but I was
wow.
screaming with my eyes
Oh, I would have been
closed.
the
Well,
same.
it's the last time I've ever done it. And I will never, ever, ever, ever do it again. I'm so scared of heights that I get my own daughter to climb on the roof to clean our solar panels because I
Oh,
won't even
Chad.
climb up onto the roof. I pay her to do that for
Wow.
me. I cannot do it. I'm
That
sorry.
bad,
It's
hey?
just not going to
Gee.
happen. Not going to happen. I
Oh,
cannot even walk in the bush if there's a cliff down the side. I can't do it. We
no.
went for a walk with my wife in the mountains, and we came around the corner, and we had to like it. It wasn't even that bad. If I showed you the pictures, you'd just laugh. Okay. I sat down. I said to her, "You go, come back. I'll wait here for you. I'm not
Oh,
walking like that. I'll watch a roller coaster on TV or watch somebody, and my stomach just goes. I can't do it. It's
so
my
you can't do
biggest
roller
fear is
coasters either?
heights. I can't do anything with
Oh,
height.
yeah.
Don't take me up anywhere. I don't want to do it. It's
Note to self, we won't.
yeah. No, it's not something I'll do. I won a trip to Zambia, okay,
Yeah.
and part of the trip was to do bungee jumping off the bridge between Zambia and Zimbabwe,
Oh, I
over the
couldn't.
Zambezi River at Victoria Falls.
Mm.
Couldn't jump. I couldn't even walk across a bridge. I couldn't do it. I stood at the bridge. I couldn't do it. I couldn't bring myself to go to the edge and actually look over the thing into the. It was too much.
Yeah, yeah. I've done skydiving once, and I think that was maybe enough. If there's ever a time I thought I was having a heart attack, it was that time. But good on you, Chad. I think that's one of the things I really respect about you is that even though you fear those things, you still, give it a go. Even today, I know as you completely out of your comfort zone, but you still gave it a go. So thank you so much.
No, thanks. I always try something once. I won't necessarily do it a second time, but I'll always try something once.
Chad, thank you so much for all that you've shared. Now, for our listeners, you can connect with Chad through our website or Chad, are you on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn as well. I'm not very
Yeah.
active on LinkedIn, but I'm on LinkedIn.
Chad, any final words of wisdom before we jump off?
If you want something done, do it properly the first time. Go to an agency like Design Studio Perth, where everything can be done for you by professionals properly the first time around. You only pay once and you will be successful. That's my takeaway on it.
Awesome. Chad, thank you so much for your time. And again, thank you so much for everything that you do for Design Studio Perth and the team. I know you're one of the mentors within Design Studio Perth, and I really value having you as a part of the team.
Only a pleasure.
Cool. Chat soon.
Thank you very much.